After we got back together, I stopped caring what Candy did or who she saw. I'd ignore the scent of cigarette smoke on her that wasn't mine, and I wouldn't move the ultra-thin condoms in the car, just in case she needed them and couldn't find them. Day after day, I was quiet and compliant. That is, until the day I found them kissing in the parking garage. I didn't get angry or make a scene. I just took a spare pair of high heels from my car and put them on her feet myself. "Here," I said, "craning your neck like that is bad for your spine." But Candy shoved the man aside, her eyes red as she stared daggers at me. "Are you really so generous that you can just stand there and watch another man touch me?" I looked at her, smiled, and my mind flashed to that girl with the great body and even better skills. It wasn't generosity. It was that I had finally learned empathy. When I didn't say anything, Candy completely fell apart. She gripped my wrist, her voice raw and cracking. "Say something. Sonny, I've changed. I swore to you I would. This time it was really just an accident. He came on to me. I'll tell him to get lost right now. How about that?" She spun around, rambling incoherently, and hurled her purse at the man behind her with a sharp cry. "Get out. Do you hear me? Disappear right now." After the man scurried away, she grabbed my hand tightly, but I could feel it shaking. He was just a random hookup. I didn't even ask his name. You have to believe me. This is the first time in 6 months. I swear it was just this once. What more do you want from me? Just tell me. What do I have to do to make you look at me the way you used to? I looked at her lipstick, smeared from kissing, and listened to her weak, pathetic excuses. I felt nothing inside, except for a sense of the absurd. My relationship with Candy was one that nobody supported. And I mean nobody. From the upper crust of New York City down to the folks in the outer boroughs, everyone thought it was a bad idea. Everyone felt that Sonny Harrison, the heir to the Harrison fortune, should marry a debutante or a polished Ivy League graduate, not a bartender from some downtown dive. For the 3 years we dated, she never used any of my connections. She worked hard, focused on perfecting her craft as a mixologist, and even taught herself design. So on our 3rd anniversary, against the wishes of my entire family, I proposed to her, and we went and got married. We quickly launched a design startup that went public within 6 months, rocketing to the top of the industry. Her designs started appearing in all the major fashion magazines. But just when I thought our life was finally on track, it went completely off the rails. During our 4 years of marriage, she became a serial cheater. Older men, younger men, it seemed like she wanted to try every type out there. At first, when I found out, I was in denial. I confronted her, lost my mind, we fought, I begged. I'd stay up all night waiting for her to come home. At my lowest point, I even tried to kill myself, naively believing my death might finally win back her attention and her loyalty. When she found out, she did panic. She rushed to the hospital and stood outside the ER, sobbing hysterically, begging the doctors to save my life. When I woke up, she was sitting by my bed. She glanced at the fresh scar on my wrist and rubbed her temples. Her face was a mask of irritation and annoyance. "Sonny, you're being so dramatic. We were right in the middle of things when you had to go and pull a stunt like this. Can't you be a grown-up about this? A little fun on the side doesn't mean I don't love you. Who is this whole life and death performance for anyway?" After that, things went back to how they were, except she became even more reckless. Everyone in our social circle was calling me a cuckold behind my back. But after all those years together, I couldn't bring myself to completely let her go. I just asked that she get tested regularly to avoid any permanent consequences, and otherwise I looked the other way. That is, until a guy named Leo showed up. He made Candy settle down in a way. She went from cheating with everyone to cheating with just one person. She stopped swapping partners, and all the sordid messages on her phone vanished. She started coming home on time at night, without the scent of strangers on her clothes. She even started learning to cook for him, perfectly happy to burn herself in the process. Everyone said Candy was finally settling down for me, but I was the only one who knew what it really meant. So I filed for divorce. I gave her everything in the divorce, just to make a clean break. 6 months later, she came back, begging me to take her back. She promised over and over that she would never be unfaithful again. I looked down into her hopeful eyes, then took a tissue from my pocket and gently wiped the smudged lipstick from her lips. "You don't have to change. Whatever you do makes me happy. Candy looked up at me, her eyes a mixture of shock, panic, and rage. A tear escaped and fell onto the back of my hand. Sonny, what are you saying? You're happy that I was with another man? You're trying to punish me, aren't you? I paused for a moment, then reached out and wiped a tear from her cheek. You're reading too much into it. I was the one who was too rigid before. I was always making you unhappy. Hearing this didn't calm Candy down. Instead, she bent over, ripped the heels off her feet, and slammed them onto the pavement. Fine, you just wait and see if you regret this. With that, she stormed off barefoot and got into her sports car without a backward glance. I bent down, picked up the diamond-studded heels, and tossed them into a nearby trash can. Annoyed, I instinctively reached for my cigarettes and lighter, but when I flipped open the case, it was empty of cigarettes. At some point, someone had replaced them all with little candies wrapped in colorful foil. I unwrapped one and popped in my mouth. For the first time, my anxiety was soothed by something other than a vice. I decided not to dwell on it. After all, she had already violated every single clause in our reconciliation agreement. In a few more days, the final waiting period for the divorce would be over. For the next 3 days, Candy didn't come home. Every night, I received credit card alerts for her hotel stays, along with charges for lingerie and contraceptives. Then came the iMessages from Leo, filled with intimate photos of him and Candy in various positions. Mr. Harrison, even after your suicide attempt and getting back together, I'm still the one in her heart. A woman's love follows her body. I guess your performance these past 6 months hasn't been satisfying enough for her. How does it feel watching her like this with me? I meticulously examined every photo, her face in them flushed with a lust that was hard to look at. In the past, seeing something like this would have sent me storming into their hotel room to beat the hell out of Leo. But now I just felt exhausted and physically sick. The man I used to be seemed like a pathetic joke. She could now sleep with any man without a shred of shame. I screenshotted and saved every single photo. I ate my meals, managed my work at the company, and went to bed at the same time every night. On the 4th morning, I was making breakfast when I heard the front door unlock. Candy was home. She wore a trench coat, her hair was a mess, and her face was flushed with a look of deep satisfaction. She walked with a slight awkwardness, each step a testament to how wild her last few days had been. I didn't say a word. I just went to the medicine cabinet, took out a soothing cream, and handed it to her. My voice was perfectly level. I had someone pick this up. It should help you heal faster. Candy's eyes fell to the tube of cream, her expression darkening as her chest began to rise and fall rapidly. Sonny, her voice was hoarse from 3 days of exertion when she spoke. I've been with Leo for the past 3 days. She took a step closer, tried to read any flicker of emotion on my face. 3 days and 3 nights. We barely left the room. I've lost count of how many times we did it. So what? You don't care at all. I pulled out a chair for her at the table and pushed a glass of warm milk toward her. Eat some breakfast first. You know you have a sensitive stomach. My refusal to engage sent Candy over the edge. Eat breakfast? Sonny, open your eyes and look. She ripped open the belt of her trench coat. It slid to the floor, revealing a black lace teddy that barely covered anything. More jarringly, it was covered in stains. Candy tore the teddy off and threw it in my face with all her might. A sickening smell clung to my cheek for a moment before the fabric slid off and landed at my feet. She stood before me, completely naked, her skin covered in love bites, her eyes a furious, bloodshot red. Fine, since you're so calm, you can wash it for me. Leo said it's his favorite. Faced with her demand, I felt no anger. I simply walked to the bedroom, got a robe, and carefully wrapped it around her. Then I picked up her clothes from the floor. I'll run a hot bath for you. You can soak after you've had something to eat. Sonny, I had just turned to leave when she stopped me. Her voice was laced with an uncontrollable frustration and a faint trace of panic. What is it that you want? Who is this whole understanding husband act for? As she spoke, tears suddenly streamed down her face, her voice thick with self-pity. The truth is, nothing happened with Leo. The stains on the lingerie, they're not his. I faked it, and these marks on my body, I had a makeup artist paint them on. She clutched my sleeve, looking up at me with a desperate, pleading tone. We're back together now. Shouldn't we be trying to make this work? I know I was wrong before. I'll change. Can we please start over? I wanted to tell her that she couldn't change, that she would never change. Leo had already told me everything. I even knew what brand of condoms they used and how many different positions they tried. But I didn't say any of that. I just reached out, gently stroked her hair, and even offered her a small, placid smile. I believe you. If you say it didn't happen, then it didn't happen. Now eat, before your food gets cold. Candy was stunned, clearly not expecting this reaction from me. Really? Sonny, you really believe me? I nodded. Then will you come with me to the jewelry design exhibition opening tomorrow night? She leaned into my arms, her voice trembling. Everyone is spreading rumors that you don't love me anymore. Let's go together and prove them wrong, okay? I saw the cautious hope in her eyes, and, without hesitating, I smiled and agreed. Okay, we'll go together. The opening night reception was packed with the city's elite. The moment we walked in, all eyes turned to us. Look, Sonny Harrison actually showed up. To put up with all this, he must be either madly in love or completely shameless. True love? Don't make me laugh. Everyone in New York knows she's made a total fool of him. I heard that more than half the men in this room have slept with Mrs. Harrison. Are you serious? This is going to be interesting. It's like a reunion for all her lovers, past and present. Well, what can you say? The man has the patience of a saint. Look at him so calm. He must be used to it by now. Patience? That's called being a doormat. After a while, you probably don't even feel the shame anymore. It's a shame. The Harrison Corporation is such a powerhouse, and this is their heir. The murmurs grew louder, punctuated by snickers from every corner of the room. Candy's arm, linked with mine, tensed up. I patted her hand reassuringly and raised my voice just enough to be heard. Thank you all for your concern for my wife and me. I know there have been some baseless rumors floating around, and I appreciate you all bearing with them. So, I'd like to take this opportunity to set the record straight. I put my arm around her shoulders, my gesture both natural and firm. We are very happy together. We always have been, we are now, and we always will be. Candy leaned into my embrace, her body trembling slightly. Her eyes were shimmering with unshed tears as she rose on her toes to kiss me. But just as her lips were about to meet mine, a figure appeared at her side. It was Leo. He jogged up to Candy, completely ignoring me, and held out a small bag to her. Candy, you left your lingerie at my place. I washed and ironed it for you. It's your favorite set. I didn't want you to lose it. The room, which had just fallen silent, erupted in whispers as every eye in the place turned back to me. For a few seconds, time seemed to freeze. Then, Candy reached out and, with perfect composure, took the bag from Leo. When she looked at me, her eyes were full of guilt. He asked me to look at some design sketches the other day. I accidentally spilled coffee on myself, so I just took a shower at his apartment. Spilling coffee requires washing an entire set of lingerie and having someone else wash, iron, and deliver it to you at a public event. She was always like this, using my feelings for her to make a fool of me, time and time again. But she didn't know that I no longer cared. But as my eyes drifted from the lace set in the bag to her forced composure, and then to Leo's deceptively innocent, provocative stare, the familiar wave of nausea washed over me. Yet my expression showed no trace of anger or humiliation. I just watched her silently, then turned my gaze to Leo. Thank you. We appreciate you going to the trouble. I paused and my voice turned cold. I'm just wondering, since when does an event of this caliber let in someone like you? Leo's face went pale, and he instinctively ducked behind Candy. He started to speak, but Candy cut him off, her voice sharp with panic. She grabbed my arm, her tone a mix of accusation and a reflexive need to defend him. What are you doing, Sonny? I gave him the invitation. Leo is a designer too. He just wanted to come and learn from the masters. Why do you have to be so sensitive? I already explained what happened. Even though I didn't love her anymore, hearing the protective tone in her voice, her annoyance at me for making a scene, still stung like a tiny needle. Before I could respond, Leo suddenly dropped to his knees in front of everyone. Mr. Harrison, his voice trembled as he began to plead. I know you're a powerful man and that you look down on someone like me. And I'll admit it, I have feelings for Candy. I've had them since the first day I met her. His words landed like a boulder in a quiet pond, sending ripples of shock through the crowd. People audibly gasped, but Leo raised his voice, his eyes welling up. I know my place. I know her heart belongs only to you. She loves you so much. For you, she's rejected me countless times. She even tried to cut off all contact with me. This was a genuine mistake. She was just being kind and helping me with my portfolio. Please, don't get the wrong idea. Don't let someone as insignificant as me come between you two. His little speech made it all clear. I finally understood why Candy had gone from cheating with many to cheating with only one. He was pretending to beg for my forgiveness, but every word was a calculated demonstration of his importance to her. Candy was clearly stunned by his performance. She looked from the fragile, red-eyed boy kneeling on the floor to my impassive face, and then she exploded. Sonny, that's enough. Her voice cracking, she slapped me hard across the face. Did you have to frighten him like that? Are you happy now that you've bullied him? She bent down to help Leo up, her touch gentle, her eyes full of tenderness. Get up. I'm here. He has no right to treat you this way. Leo let her help him up, and as he rose, his eyes flickered toward me for a split second, full of defiance and triumph. Just then, the large chandelier directly above us began to sway violently. My first instinct was to pull her to safety, but she shoved me away with all her strength. Sonny, what are you trying to do now? The next second, the crystal chandelier crashed down on my head. A searing pain, and then my vision was blurred by warm blood. Sonny, Candy screamed, her face as white as a sheet, and finally started running toward me. But just then, Leo, who was beside her, clutched at a small cut on his cheek from a piece of flying crystal, let out a pained groan, and collapsed. The hand she had been reaching out to me froze in midair. Sonny, just hold on. Leo can't handle pain. I woke up in a hospital bed. Candy was sitting by my side, clutching my hand. Her perfect makeup was streaked with tears, and her eyes were red and swollen. When she saw I was awake, her face flooded with relief, and she began to sob uncontrollably. Sonny, I'm so sorry. It's just that Leo's background is as rough as mine was, and he's fighting so hard for a better life. I just feel sorry for him. I've been here by your side for 3 days and nights. Please, can you forgive me? I stared at her face, stunned for a moment. In all these years, it was the first time I'd ever seen her so terrified of losing me. After all, I had thrown away every last shred of my dignity in the past, and it had never once earned me her sympathy. I numbly nodded my forgiveness. Candy's face broke into a teary smile. Right there in front of me, she typed out a message to Leo telling him it was over. After hitting send, she blocked him on everything. Then she looked at me like a child expecting a treat for being good. From now on, you're the only one in my life. Let's have another wedding, okay? We can prove to everyone that there's no room for anyone else in our lives. In the days that followed, the news that Sonny Harrison was remarrying his notoriously unfaithful ex-wife became the laughingstock of our social circle. Candy spent every day trying on dresses, testing makeup looks, and overseeing the wedding preparations. She was more invested than she had been for our first wedding. Everyone was convinced that the serial cheater had finally decided to change her ways. Then came the wedding day. The guests were seated, the venue was perfect, and all we needed was the bride. The officiant had already tried to stall awkwardly several times, and the guests were starting to whisper. My assistant rushed over, his face white as a ghost. Mr. Harrison, Ms. Thompson is gone. The dressing room is empty, and her phone is off. The room descended into chaos. Everyone searched the hotel from top to bottom, but the bride was nowhere to be found. I stood perfectly still, looking out at the sea of confused faces, feeling absolutely nothing. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a picture message from an unknown number. The photo showed Candy, still in her wedding gown, squatting on a floor and hand-washing a pair of men's socks. Leo was flashing a peace sign at the camera, a smug, arrogant grin on his face. Happy wedding day, Mr. Harrison. Your bride is a little busy at the moment. I let out a short, bitter laugh, took the microphone from the officiant, and spoke in a calm voice. Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies for the delay. We've had a slight change of plans. The wedding will proceed as planned. However, I paused, a fond smile touching my lips. We have a new bride. As Candy washed Leo's socks, her fingers soaking in the soapy water, a strange sense of panic began to creep into her heart. Leo wrapped his arms around her from behind, his hot breath tickling her neck. Candy, thank you for coming to take care of me. I don't know what I would have done without you. But your wedding with Mr. Harrison is about to start. Shouldn't you be going? His dependence on her was reassuring, and it calmed her nerves a little. She remembered the reception, how Sonny had declared in front of everyone how happy they were, how he'd warned people to stop spreading rumors. Candy's heart steadied. Sonny loved her so much. He had defended her in front of all those people. He would surely understand her predicament this time, too. She was just being compassionate, helping this poor boy out. As soon as Leo felt a little better, she would head back. With that thought, she not only washed several days' worth of Leo's socks, but also mopped his floors, tidied his apartment, and cooked him a meal. She even satisfied his physical needs. When she had done it all, she finally rushed from Leo's apartment to the wedding venue. The whole way there, she imagined how Sonny must have calmed the guests, how he was waiting patiently for her to arrive so they could be married. But when she arrived, she found the grand ballroom, which should have been full of guests, was completely empty. A few cleaning ladies were scraping leftovers from the tables into takeout containers. Candy froze, a terrible feeling creeping into her heart. She ran up to one of the women, who was packing up a platter of roast pork, and demanded shrilly, "What are you doing? Who told you to clear the tables? The wedding hasn't even started yet." The woman jumped, startled. She looked Candy up and down, then sneered, her voice dripping with condescension. "Hasn't started? Honey, are you dreaming? The wedding finished hours ago. The bride and groom are probably enjoying their wedding night as we speak. You just mad you missed the food, huh? Here, take this pork. No one's touched it. You want or not? Because if not, it's coming with me." "That's ridiculous." Candy looked as if she'd been struck by lightning, her voice rising to a shriek. "I'm the bride. How could the wedding be over without me? You tell me right now, who was the groom and who was the bride?" The woman took a step back, then looked Candy up and down as if she'd just told the funniest joke in the world. She let out a cruel laugh. "You? The bride? Please, I gotta look at the real bride today." She was gorgeous, an absolute angel. A class act. He wouldn't even look at you twice to be his mistress. "So you don't want the food? Then get out of here and let us do our jobs. How dare you speak to me like that? Do you have any idea who I am?" Candy was shaking with rage, and she raised her hand as if to strike the woman. But the cleaning lady was not easily intimidated. "I don't care who you are. You make one more move, and I'm calling security. You're crazy." Another cleaner chimed in from a nearby table. "That's right. Mr. Harrison married a respectable woman from a good family. Someone like you doesn't belong here. Go on. Get out of here before you embarrass yourself further." Candy stood frozen, her face ashen, a roaring sound filling her ears. Mr. Harrison, Sonny, married someone else? Today? On their wedding day? Impossible. Sonny loved her. He had said they were happy. He had promised to marry her again. With trembling hands, she tried to call Sonny, only to discover he had blocked her number. She opened iMessage and saw that he had blocked her there too. She tried to storm past them to find the hotel manager, but he met her with a look of pure contempt. "Miss Thompson, I'm sorry, but the wedding is over. If you have no other business here, I must ask you to leave." She collapsed onto the steps of the hotel entrance, sobbing, completely lost. Why hadn't Sonny waited for her? She refused to believe it. She had to go and find him to demand an explanation. The Harrison family estate. The night sky above was filled with dazzling fireworks. Guests were raising their glasses, offering toasts to the Harrison family patriarchs. Just as someone was suggesting the bride and groom have their first dance, a voice cut sharply through the music. Candy rushed forward and grabbed my hand, her eyes red-rimmed and furious. "Sonny, who is she? Why is she here with you? Why did you marry someone else? How could you do this to me?" The music screeched to a halt. I scoffed, wrenching my hand from her grasp, my eyes falling on the fresh love bites on her neck. "Why? You really don't know?" Candy looked utterly exasperated, her face a mask of frustration. "Why? I told you I would be back for the wedding as soon as I was done helping Leo. You're the only one I love. Why can't you just trust me? Not only do you not trust me, but you hired some slut to stage a fake wedding just to hurt me. Do you think this is funny? Can you stop this nonsense now? I looked at her indignant expression and couldn't help but laugh. Candy, have you just met me? Sonny Harrison, do not make jokes. I always mean what I say. Besides, did you really think I would ever take back a woman as shameless as you? Candy's brow furrowed, her eyes boring into mine. Sonny, what are you trying to say? That you're disgusted by me? That you think I'm dirty? Then why did you agree to take me back? I'll have you know, we are legally married again. We have the certificate. Marrying her makes you a bigamist. Aren't you afraid I'll press charges? I snorted and signaled for my assistant to hand her a file. My voice was ice. Candy, has that boy toy of yours addled your brain completely? Have you forgotten the agreement we signed before we reconciled? Take a look. Tell me which one of these clauses you haven't violated. A flash of panic crossed Candy's face before she snatched the papers from his hand and ripped them to shreds. I never did anything to betray you. Why are you treating me like this? You just don't want to be with me anymore. You're just trying to humiliate me. I looked at her, still refusing to face reality, and found the whole situation laughable. Even if you tear that one up, I have plenty of copies. Did you think that just because you denied it, I wouldn't have proof? I took a thick stack of photos from my assistant and threw them in her face. The thing is, when you do something, someone is always willing to deliver the evidence right to my doorstep. Open your eyes and take a good long look at how depraved you look underneath another man. The party was full of reporters, and when they saw this, the camera flashes became a blinding strobe. Candy stared at the photos scattered on the floor, her entire body shaking. They were photos of every single time she had slept with Leo over the past 6 months. The very last photo was of her from behind, washing Leo's socks, taken just hours ago. She stood there, stunned, and began to mutter, "No, that's not me. They're photoshopped. You would go this far, frame me like this, just to marry that woman." I let out a cold laugh. Candy, you're not worth the effort it would take to fake these photos. You remember the terms of our reconciliation agreement, don't you? The dissolution clause was triggered a month ago. Legally speaking, I am a single man, free to marry whomever I choose. Now, please get out of my house. I don't want to leave my new wife with a bad first impression on our wedding night. The security guards stepped forward, grabbed Candy by the arms, and began to drag her away. It was only then that it finally dawned on Candy that I was serious. I was really done with her. Her face was a mess of panic, tears, and snot as she started screaming. "Honey, Sonny, please, don't leave me. Don't you love me anymore? You can't do this. You promised you would give me the best life. You promised we would be together forever. You said you would always forgive me, no matter what I did. You're all I have left. You're the most important person in my life. You can't leave me." Just then, another figure rushed into the room and fell to his knees before me. It was Leo. His face was pale, the cut on his cheek still an angry red. He looked at Candy with undisguised adoration. "Mr. Harrison, it was all my fault. I was the one who provoked you. I seduced Candy. It has nothing to do with her. Do whatever you want of me, but please don't hurt her. She really, truly loves you." Normally, Candy would have eaten up Leo's whole sensitive, self-sacrificing act. No matter how sorry she might have felt, the moment he showed up playing the victim, all her remorse would vanish, and she would choose him without a second thought, even if it meant hurting me again. But this time, she scrambled to her feet and slapped Leo hard across the face. "Shut up. You're nothing but a pet, a toy I keep around for fun. Just because I sleep with you doesn't mean you could ever replace him. I'm telling you, I could sleep with 1,000 men, and Sonny would still be the only one I love." After the slap, Leo's eyes turned red, and his fists clenched at his sides. Candy came back to me, her face a mask of desperate pleading. "Sonny, please, just forgive me one more time. I'll be good from now on, I promise. I'll stay home. I'll be a housewife. Whatever you want." I ignored her and signaled for security to remove both of our uninvited guests. Then we continued with our wedding reception. Thrown out of the Harrison estate, Candy was a complete wreck. She stumbled back to our old apartment, only to find her key code no longer worked. She pounded on the door until a strange man opened it and told her, annoyed, that the unit had been sold. In disbelief, she went to the company we had built together, but security refused to let her inside. It was only then that she finally realized she had truly and completely lost me. She huddled on a street corner, scrolling through news alerts and social media headlines on her phone. They were all about the wedding of the century, accompanied by the sordid, intimate photos of her and Leo. The comments poured in, each one a dagger to the heart. Mr. Harrison is a saint for putting up with her for so long. You should have kicked her to the curb years ago. She had it all and didn't appreciate it. She drove a good man away. She deserves this. If I were Sonny Harrison, I would have divorced her and left her with nothing the very first time she cheated. I saw a picture of the new bride. She's an absolute angel. So classy. So glad Mr. Harrison is finally rid of that tramp. After everything she put him through, she still expected him to forgive her? The nerve of that woman. Every word was like a knife twisting in her gut. All her helpless rage turned toward one person, Leo. If he hadn't seduced her, if he hadn't played the victim again and again, she would never have ended up like this. She stormed over to Leo's apartment like a madwoman, screaming every vicious insult she could think of at him, blaming him for her entire downfall. At first, Leo tried to calm her down with his usual soft, gentle act. But Candy's insults only grew fouler, and then she started hitting him. Finally, Leo dropped the act. He shoved her away hard, his eyes turning cold and dark, his voice dripping with contempt. Enough. Candy, you're a filthy slut who's slept with half the city, and you have the nerve to blame me. Who came on to who? Who was it that got a little drunk and climbed all over me? Who was it that said Sonny Harrison was a log in bed, and that I was so much better? You're the one who's a cheap whore. You're the one who's addicted to the thrill. You had a perfect life as a rich man's wife, and you threw it all away. And now that he's finally kicked you out, you come after me like a rabid dog? He stepped closer, grabbing her chin in a painful grip. I'm warning you. Don't you ever fucking bother me again. You cause me any more trouble, and I'll post every photo we ever took and all the videos I secretly recorded all over the internet. Let's let the whole world see what the great designer Candy Thompson is really like. We'll see if your precious Sonny will even look at a piece of garbage like you then. Candy was utterly terrified by this new, vicious side of him. She had never seen this side of Leo before, and she scrambled away from his apartment as fast as she could. Penniless, with nowhere to go, she found herself back at the gates of the Harrison estate. She stood outside, staring at the house, still decorated for the wedding. Her mind flooded with memories of her years with Sonny, every little moment. The genuine love she had squandered so carelessly now felt like a weight on her chest, suffocating her. He had given her so many chances, had shown her a patience and forgiveness that no one else would have, and she had thrown it all away. Finally, she couldn't hold it in any longer, and she collapsed, sobbing. Meanwhile, in the master bedroom, the room was quiet. After a long night of passion, the air was thick with the scent of lovemaking. Melody was asleep in my arms, her breathing even, her soft hair splayed across my chest, her hand clutching my shirt. We had met a few weeks ago, right after I had gathered the final conclusive proof that Candy had violated our reconciliation agreement. I thought I was numb to it all, but being betrayed again by the same person in the same way brought all the old pain flooding back. I had gone out to get drunk, but Melody, who was with a mutual friend, had quietly swapped my whiskey for water, taken the cigarette from my fingers before I could light it, and handed me a piece of candy instead. I found out later that she was Melody Miller, the cherished granddaughter of my grandfather's oldest friend, the beloved youngest daughter of the quiet but influential Miller family. As for the wedding, it was nothing more than a final test, to see if Candy had even a shred of remorse left in her. If she had shown any, I would have been willing to give her a lifeline, despite the clause in our agreement that stated she would walk away with nothing. But she didn't. She even had the audacity to demand why I was leaving her. No amount of love can survive that much betrayal, that much neglect. It all just withers away and dies. I didn't hear anything about Candy again until 6 months later. I was having drinks with a friend, and he leaned in conspiratorially. "Sonny, have you heard? Your ex-wife, she has cancer. They say she doesn't have long." I was stunned for a moment, surprised by the news. My friend's tone was full of scorn. I heard that after you two split, she and that Leo kid had a nasty falling out. And of course, because of your family, all her old business contacts dropped her. She started working as a bar hostess to make money. Between the heavy drinking and the lifestyle, she ended up with stomach cancer. The treatment costs are over $1 million, and there's no guarantee it will even work. I watched the snow falling outside the window and didn't say anything. $1 million. That's what Candy used to spend on a single handbag without a second thought. And to think, I almost believed Leo was sincere with all his kneeling and begging on her behalf. It turns out he was just using her all along. I heard later that, desperate for money to pay for her treatment, Candy took a job at a funeral home. It paid $1,000 a night, but she had to handle dead bodies. The moment she got paid, she would rush to the hospital to make another payment on her medical bills. Leo, because of his association with her, had been expelled from his design program, and his career was ruined. When he found out she was working at the funeral home, he started showing up every few days, demanding money and threatening to release her private photos if she refused. At first, she paid him, but one night, the hospital gave her a final deadline for payment, and Leo showed up again, demanding his cut. In a fit of rage, Candy stabbed him over and over again. When the police arrived, she was leaning against Leo's body, covered in blood, laughing hysterically. "You ruined my marriage. Well, guess what? I'll see you in hell." It was the dead of winter, and a thick blanket of snow covered the city. I took a sip of my hot tea and just nodded. My friend gave me a worried look, then tried to joke. "What's wrong?" Feeling sad for her. Just then my phone buzzed. I opened it. It was a picture of a pregnancy test. 2 pink lines. I played the attached voice note and heard Melody's bright, happy voice. "Honey, I'm craving those little cupcakes you make. Please come home soon." I stood up and smiled at my friend. "I have to get home. My wife needs me."